This video is about achieving 10 marks on the first of your 10 mark questions. That's the explain question. As you can tell by the picture, I'm going to be using the NHS as the topic for this video. So what do you need to do in a 10 mark explain question? You need to explain why something happened. You need to make a developed point about why that thing happened using information from the source that you are directed to. You also need to make a second developed point from your own knowledge. If you can explain in detail 2 reasons why something happened using the source and your own knowledge, you are in the top part of the mark scheme. So let's have a look at a question. Using source C and your own knowledge, explain why the NHS costs so much more than the government expected. Here's our source. You can pause and you can read that. So what does the source say? More demand than expected, especially on glasses. The middle classes were also making full use of the NHS. Those are 2 reasons offered by the source for why the NHS costs more than the government expected. You now need to add your own stuff to that. What can you say that either supports those points, as in augments what the source is saying, and can you add anything completely new that maybe the source doesn't mention at all? So to support the source, the fact they weren't expecting middle class use, as is mentioned by the source, I'm going to show in my own knowledge that in the NHS Act of 1949, they exempted old, poor and disabled people from the additional charges for prescriptions, glasses and false teeth. So that shows that they are preserving the free healthcare for the people it was originally intended for, and it's those middle class users they weren't expecting that they're after for extra money. So that supports the point that the source was making, that the middle classes were using it, which the government didn't anticipate. I can also add something completely new, that there was an unexpected demand for false teeth, and that Labour had a belief that as the NHS improved, national health costs would actually come down because they wouldn't be dealing with health problems the NHS had already solved. But instead, what the NHS did is created an appetite for new services and treatments and a new sense of entitlement in healthcare, so people would seek out things that they previously may not have done so. So let's look at some model answers for this 10 mark explain question. At level 1, a basic answer, you're telling me why it happened in very simple terms. The NHS cost more than expected because there was a lot of demand, because it was free. That's an accurate answer, but there's not much detail going on and there's no use of the source. Level 2, you start to get some support from the source. So, same answer again, but it's now backed up with a quote that's going to make it a better answer. Source C says demand exceeded all predictions. Still not blown away by the answer, but it's all accurate. It's going to be level 2. To get into a higher level 2, I'm going to do the same thing but add my own knowledge. This is where we start to get up towards the 6-7 marks. Same answer again, but I'm adding in my own knowledge here about what Labour's expectations of the NHS was. This is still not a great answer, but it's better than the ones we've seen so far. Now, precise own knowledge and explanation is what we want to see to get into level 3, which is where we want to be. Explain how these things led to the outcome. So, you can see it's a lot longer for a start. The NHS cost more than the government expected because so many more people used it than the government had budgeted for. Source C says it exceeded all predictions. Also, they weren't expecting the middle classes to make full use of the services. Look at the support from the source. Then the own knowledge. This might explain why in 1949 they started to introduce the charges, etc. So, that's much better. And look at where the source is being used and look at where the own knowledge is being used. I've clearly explained the one point, many more people using it than they budgeted for, but I've supported that same point using the source and own knowledge. To get a higher level 3, that's 9 or 10 marks, you need to add a second reason. Now this could be, you can pause that and read it, I won't read it out, but this could be entirely from your own knowledge. You don't need to use the source on the second point because you've already shown you can use the source. So to recap, you're going to make 2 developed points, 2 explanations, in fact. Why did that thing happen? Use quotes from the source and use your own knowledge. Now, your own knowledge can either be used to support the source, so you have source and own knowledge supporting the same explanation, or you could use your own knowledge to make an entirely different point that the source doesn't mention at all. 2 developed points, source and own knowledge, that's what we're looking for to get the 8, 9, 10 marks.